Hello. Hi, Michael. I see you're muted right now. You can unmute if you want to talk. It'll be probably another 10 minutes yet before we get going here. And your mute would be down in the bottom left. There we go. Hello. Good morning, everybody. If you're listening in, another 10 minutes so that we get some people logged in.
Sounds good.
Awesome. This is the way to go to meetings.
Great backdrop.
Yeah, I'm here watching the Cardinals game. I wish. Big Cardinals fan, but we don't get to see any games this year. Hopefully they get on television here pretty soon.
Yep.
Otherwise, my backdrop is a window, which kind of bleeds things out.
Oh.
Got the curtain closed, but still doesn't make a lot of difference. So let's see. Let's see.
So you teach soils at wherever you're at?
Yeah, so I'm at Northeast Iowa Community College, and I teach a lot of online. I started teaching online, maybe 15 years ago when they were just starting. Learned a lot of things over the years. And soils actually was one of the earlier courses I put online. And everybody's telling me, you can't teach soils online. I said, well, yeah, you can. At the time when I started it, my program numbers weren't looking all that good. So I thought, well, part of my problem was schedule conflicts because we only had one sections of courses and we had other programs. And so I said, well, let's put the soils online. Then there's no schedule conflicts. And then I typically get, probably 2 to 3 to 4 high school students that sign up every year for it too.
Super.
Which they wouldn't be able to sign up for it if it wasn't online because the driving distance is just too much for them. So they may be an hour and a half away. And let's see, I've had a person from Europe sign up for it. He was actually in the military. When he got out of the military, he's coming back to help his dad out on the farm, and he's looking for something to do while he's sitting there. I guess he was pretty bored on the military base when he said they weren't doing anything. So he said, well, let's sign up for a class. And he looked for ag classes, and he found soils online. So had him. Had a student from Alaska in it, Washington. A lot of different students from a lot of different distances. Majority of the students, 80% of them at least, are basically students are sitting on campus anyway. That could come to a face-to-face class if it was offered. And that's always when you get comments at the end of a course. A lot of times, it never fails in any of my online courses. At least a couple students says, well, this would have been a better class on campus. I won't argue with that. I mean, I teach probably 50 to 75% of my courses online, and I won't argue with anybody that they're better off on campus.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we were fortunate to do it with this COVID, and my problem was half the students weren't doing the activities.
Yep.
But
I taught a grain and forage crops class this spring, and my one of my teaching partners, Sarah, she taught it online, and I taught it face to face. So students had a choice; they could take it either way because there was enough students to offer two sections. And the students that took it face to face took it specifically because they knew they didn't do well in an online environment.
Right.
And I really felt bad. Like I said, at spring break, just like the rest of us, we had to shift to online. And I had students getting A's and B's and ended up with D's at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
Um,
I kept doing the extension of the extension. So, yeah, I had several students that were, well up in the high B's and low A's and were sliding and every week sliding just because they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem is the discipline. It was kind of ironic because the student says, "Well, I just can't find the time to sit down and do the class." I says, "Well, normally we'd be meeting from 7:30 to 10 Monday and Wednesday and Friday.
Right.
You just sat down from 7:30 to 10 on Monday and Wednesday, you'd have the class done. Why don't I have that time? What?"
Yeah, I had that same conversation. It's like, well, I had to go to work because of this and this. And I says, well, what would you have done if we were still going to class? I said, I can't cut the course. And I said, I'm putting as much stuff online as you would have to sit and do it in person. I can't just make up some short version of it.
No, you can't water it down. No, that's not appropriate. I mean, they paid for a good course. They paid for good content. It's not fair to water it down. And it puts it on their back. And that's what it says. There's some students that just can't deal with the self-discipline.
Right. Since they were forced into it, I kept sliding on the due date. So some of them finally kicked in gear the last 2 or 3 weeks and made up a lot of work in a short period of time. But
yep.
I don't think they got the quality if they would have just been chugging and plugging as they went through.
Yeah, I slid the due dates in all my classes after spring break. We use D2L or Brightspace, and one of the nice things about hi Sarah. Sarah's one of my teaching partners. She's the one that taught the online grain and forage crops when I taught the face to face. So, but with Brightspace, what they let you do, and other online probably same way, is you can set a due date and then you can also send in an end date.
Right.
So what I did is I kept all the due dates to try and keep them on track, but I changed the end dates to later in the semester to basically the end of the semester to give them that flexibility.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. A lot of them, so I knew they were late when I graded them, but I don't know.
Yeah, and
pretty frustrating.
Being flexible with them sometimes is not a good idea, but in this situation, with my online students, I've got some, and I'll talk a little bit about how I do that when I get everybody on, but I have a little flexibility with online students, but when we shifted, no, hey, you took this online, you know how to deal with it online.
Right. I'm with you. If I would have started it as an online, I'd had to been a little more hard and fast on what, but.
Yeah, but these students that were forced into it that never wanted to be in an online class, you have to feel for them, and you give them every break possible, but that still sometimes doesn't make a bit of difference. I think I only ended up failing a couple. Some of them probably should have failed, but I didn't. But I got them all through.
I had a few of them I would send them emails. Crooks are stupid because they would use somebody else's file for the input and not even change the name. So they're turning in somebody else's work with their name on it, the other person's name on it. I said, you got to be at least smarter than that.
Yeah, if you're going to plagiarize somebody, at least put your name on it and not theirs. Yeah, Sarah sits across the hall from me. We both had that situation happen to us. It's bad enough you're copying, okay, but you know what? You're giving it away if you don't even bother changing it. You're awful lazy, okay? So for those of you just logging in, we're just chatting right now. We haven't actually started. Seeing if we get a couple more people in. I see it's 1 o'clock now. We'll give it another minute or two and hit some things. I know there's some other people might be in. So, and then we'll just kind of go around and introduce everybody. So now we're just chatting about the shift that we had to make to go to online. So anybody has any comments and want to chat while we're waiting for other people to come in, feel free. But it's been an interesting semester, and I mean, right now, and my wife teaches here at the college too, and we've been talking it over for fall semester, what we're going to do. What we're talking about is we're hopefully, obviously, we'll be on campus is our hopes, and it kind of looks that way, particularly we can start end of August. But I think my plan is that by the halfway through the semester, kind of plan on it being closed down again and be prepped for that. And if it stays open, great. But I'm planning on getting if I got any type of hands-on labs, it has to be done on campus. They can't be done virtually anyway. I'm going to try to put those right at the beginning of semester where it's appropriate time or not.
That's probably a good idea.
And then just make sure.
We haven't decided, or at least I haven't heard yet for Ivy Tech, but across the river at Purdue, they're going to start and then just sandwich it down and not do any breaks except for Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. Yeah, our college hasn't made any decisions yet either about what fall is going to be at. Those just logging in. We're just chatting right now. We haven't started anything. Just how things have happened, how things will go. So I said, my plan is all my classes will be able to go fully online when fall gets here, fully online by halfway through it. And like I said, we'll start on campus, and I'll have everything set up that, hey, if we have to, when it closes down, this time we'll be ready for it. Rather than at spring break, you know what, next week you're all online. What? For me, it was easy because I had a lot of online stuff I've been doing already, but a lot of people struggled, and like I said, a lot of students struggled. But I'm going to tell the students too. It says, hey, we don't know if we're going to be here all semester, so you make sure you understand how to do online classes and make sure they understand all the tools there. See what happens this fall. So, but it's been an interesting year. Well, I think we got enough people in. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm kind of taking the lead on this. David Bolton and is David on? I'm not sure if David got on. Bosen, I think is how I pronounce his last name. I'm horrible on last names. I can get first names. And some of you others, we had talked about doing part of this C2A3 program, some in-services. And one of the things, well, let's try and do some virtual in-services. And we were going to kind of start in the fall maybe. Some of you who are familiar with the C2A3 program, the consortium of our colleges, we actually meet in the fall and have some in-services in the fall. We're talking now that in-services will be virtual instead of actually going somewhere and spending time 2 days somewhere. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. They sent us a possible schedule of how that may look like. But in the meantime, we're looking at meeting once a month in Zoom and just whatever our current topics. And I went ahead and suggested that we start out with doing how do you put a soils class online. My name, by the way, is Tad Mueller. I teach at Northeast Iowa Community College. I have been teaching online for, I'm thinking 15 years now. One of these days I have to figure out when I actually did start. So had a lot of what you should do and shouldn't do type things as I've evolved my courses. And I'm going to show you 2 courses today that I have put together related to soils. One is a very mature course, and that's when I mean by mature, it has been on at least 5 years, and I got the bugs out of it. And another is a brand new course that went online this year, and I'll show you some of the things I haven't got to where I want it to be yet as we go with that. And then once we're done with some of that, make sure we got some questions and answer period. Feel free to interrupt at any time here. Most of you are muted. I'm sitting here, by the way, at the Cardinals ball game here watching Cardinals play. So if there's any home runs, you may know. I like my virtual background. I'm a Cardinals fan if you haven't figured that one out, but not a fan this year. So let's go around, and I'm going to just look at the screen and start in the upper left-hand corner with Michael on my screen. Not sure what everybody else's screen looked like. Just who you are, kind of what you do, and where you're from.
Okay, can you hear me, folks?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is a new setup as far as this computer, so I wanted to check. As you see, my name is Michael Lechner. I teach at Northeast Community College. I've taught 4 different platforms. So probably at least your 15 years, Tad. I'm not currently teaching a soils course, but Bob is teaching some of the courses I used to. I used to teach advanced fertilizers. I used to teach grain harvesting handling. I still teach a crops and irrigation class currently in the summer. Been at the college since 1996. It's kind of who I am. Thank you.
Okay. And Haberlin, I don't know your first name.
Don.
Don.
Yes. I'm a 35-and-a-half-year high school retired ag teacher, and then I've been at Ivy Tech Community College at the Lafayette campus since 2012. I've never taught any online classes, but I have been teaching our basic soils class since 2012 and was forced into it halfway through this semester to finish it up. So got a lot of soils background, but no real great things. I used a lot of YouTube to get my stuff across this semester.
Okay, Sarah? You're muted.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Oh, so we got two Sarahs. Sarah Sailing, go ahead.
This is Sarah Celine. I'm with Northeast Community College. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Can't see you though.
Well, my house is kind of a hot mess right now. So 5 kids destroy it very quickly.
Oh, we understand.
Point at something else.
I've been teaching at Northeast now about 4 years. I do teach online. I teach plant science online. I'm doing soils hybrid in the future. Maybe online. We'll see how this semester goes. 75% of my graduate work was done online. So I have a nice perspective of the student and the instructor. So I look forward to being able to use some of that.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. It's been a while since I've taken an online course, but when you do, it's like, oh, now I understand where the confusion was with my student. Sarah from NICC. There you go.
I'm Sarah. I'm from NICC. I just finished my first semester at NICC. Was at Chippewa Valley Technical College for 3 years in Wisconsin. And this is the first time I've fully taught online was this last semester, but Tad's across the hall. So I have the expert in my back pocket all the time and constantly yelling across the hall for him. So
That's all right. It's better than yelling across Zoom. So Jess Smithers.
Yes, Jess Smithers, Richland Community College, Decatur, Illinois. I've got about 20 years in agriculture education and two as an instructor at the community college level.
All right. Robert Noonan.
Yes, I'm Bob Noonan, Northeast Community College. I just completed my 7th year of teaching, and this last semester was the first time I've taught online. And because of all the experience in the ag department, I had a lot of help, and it went pretty well. Yeah, and so I am a friend of Zoom, and so I guess that's probably the best thing I can say for the last half of the semester. But yeah, so nice to see all you guys.
Okay, David Shiley.
I'm Dave Shiley. I am the outreach coordinator at Richland Community College in Decatur. Just retired from Extension in December. I worked for the University of Illinois Extension for about 38 years as an Extension educator in natural resources and local food systems and small farms. And while I've done a lot of web-based teaching, I haven't taught a formal class, but I will be teaching soil science in the fall. So here to learn from all you.
Okay, Tara Smidra?
Tara Smidra from North.
Okay.
I am the Associate Dean of Ag Math Science, so I'm just here to learn and kind of see what's cool and how you guys are doing things and how I can help.
All right. Craig Bowers.
Yeah, I'm the agriculture program chair here at Ivy Tech Lafayette in Indiana. Kind of just jumping on. I don't teach any soils classes. Don takes care of that, but just kind of jumping on to see what types of things are done on an online platform.
Pete.
Pete Fondle, Illinois Central College. I basically do most of the agronomy courses at Illinois Central College. Been taught the whole last 10 weeks online, basically here at ICC. But again, just always looking for new stuff to do. And I did finish up a soils class online for the last several weeks, so I've had at least a run at this once.
All right. It says T-E-E.
Hi, I'm Dr. T. Bush, and I
Okay.
teach at Northeast Community College. I actually am a horticulturalist, so I have not taught soils online. I've taught several classes, but I have to approach soils from an artificial perspective.
You bet. Corrine.
Hi, I'm Corinne Morris. I'm the Dean of Ag, Math, and Science at Northeast Community College. And I'm really just kind of listening in today, hoping to get some ideas to share with several different instructors who are early to the online world. So I'm really excited to see what you guys all do.
Great. Anissa.
Hi, Anessa Hoffman. I teach at North Dakota State College of Science. I do the majority of the agronomy and all of the soils courses. I've been, gosh, I think at Wapton maybe 15 years and teaching, 27, 28 years total. So I've done some hybrid kind of things, nothing fully online. We're pretty hopeful that we'll be back to normal in the fall, but we're preparing for different opportunities should that be the case that we're not back. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. And then Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Complin. I serve as academic dean at the North Dakota State College, and it's good to see and hear from all of you. Hope you're all staying well and having a good start to your summer.
All right. Thank you. Did I miss anybody? All right, great. I'm going around. By the way, we are recording this session, so it will be up later, but just to remind you that it is being recorded. If you have a concern about that anything here will be published later and available for people who are not able to make it. Excuse me. So I kind of mentioned in the beginning how we got this thing started. I'm not in particular going to take a lot about what we're going to do with soils, but more talk about online teaching and just bring in some of my ideas. As I've been part of the C2A3 conference and going to the conferences, and I think what I've gained the most from being part of this consortium is listening to other instructors and what they do. I don't listen to the administrators a whole lot about what they do. They've got their job, we've got ours, but the people I gain the most from is listening to instructors and just sharing ideas. So that's kind of the reason we're in here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. I'll go share screen too. And what we work with is Brightspace or D2L. It goes by, I think the corporation is D2L and Brightspace is kind of the name of it. This is our front page in it right now. I do have a couple summer classes going on, just to mention the online. Crop scouting online. Everybody says, how can you teach crop scouting online? Well, 90% of the students in that class are actually on internships right now. And they're actually crop scouting. Okay, so there is not a lab with it because they're getting the lab at work. There are a few who are not doing scouting as part of their internships, so they're not gaining as much from the course. I will admit to that, but it works pretty good because then I don't have to bring them to campus. And we've got students from as much as 4 or 5 hours away here that come to our college sometimes. So that gives them a chance to complete it online. By the way, as I mentioned that, I said in the beginning, I've been teaching online. I've been teaching for over 25 years, but I've been online for over 15. And our ag business program currently is 100% available online. It's also taught most of it face-to-face because we got multiple sections, several courses. But we have students, I think I've graduated 3 or 4 now that never came in campus. I had one student from South Carolina. The first time I ever saw her was when she drove all the way up here with her family to go through graduation ceremonies. So you can do programs completely online. It takes a different type of student to do that. You also notice I have my internships on here. I do those online. Obviously, they don't come to campus for that. So as we look at that, the internship, there's paperwork and things to do along with that. They can do that online. So that's kind of how we do that. They have discussions in there and they hand in their paperwork. Some students struggle with that a little bit, but not too bad. Every once in a while, I may have to follow up halfway through summer and mail a packet to somebody because they didn't get anything done online, but that works all right. 2 courses I do want to talk about: this ag fertilizers and chemicals class, the fertilizer part of it. This is actually a brand new course, not totally brand new. It's a combination of courses in the past that I rebuilt into a new course. I'll show you where it's not quite where I want it to be. And then my fundamentals of soil science class, if it wants to click in here. This is a class, it's been online for a long time. One of the keys to making it work, and let me see if I can find that. I'm doing something here. Soil text. One of the keys to making that class work is the textbook, and online classes are easier to teach if you've got a textbook that you can use with it. This happens to be the text that I use. This is the text that was, and I don't think it's any longer used, at NICC, or excuse me, at Iowa State University. And they basically, you can see on the cover picture on that text, when they took soils class at Iowa State, if any of you are Iowa State grads, you know this, they sat in this lab and they just basically went an auto tutorial. The whole course essentially was online. They had to come to a lab to do it. But the entire course was online to them. And this text was designed as a self-tutorial text. Go through it. There are parts of it that are not appropriate, but we can skip over that. So that was one of the keys with the course, as I had that, and that's why I went online with this course, fairly easy. They do have a side lab that they had to go over to. Along with that, there's a hardbound textbook, and some of you may or may not have used this. There are a lot of different soils texts out there. I'm not saying this is better or worse than any of the others, but it is attached to this workbook type book on soils. I require the workbook. I don't require the textbook. And it's another interesting thing as we work around it. They really have to have the textbook to answer the questions. But I found the 5th edition and 6th edition are just as good. There's not a whole lot of new stuff in the 6th edition that they need. So they can get the 6th edition for $150 and then get the 5th edition for $6. So I don't require it, and I tell the students to buy the older edition and then go on Amazon and get it for less than $10. So those are the books I use for that course. That helps structure the course better if you've got a textbook. And you can do online courses, obviously, without textbooks. I'm trying to ship some of mine that way as we work with it. This is the face of Brightspace. And again, you can vary that depending on what your school decides, but this is what our school's done. And I'm going to actually change the view here and show you what the students will see. And the students are encouraged, and we try to mandate that they go through content because that's where everything is at in the course. And this, of course, is what I started this last spring. This is something here, the Start Here module, that our distance learning people have put together. And they have a newer module than this that they brought out for the fall, the summer and fall, which I could show you that. But they just have a lot of different things in there to help students become aware and to step through there and go through that. One of the first assignments I have for students is that they introduce themselves in the discussion. Those of you teaching online, I'm sure you all require that too, because we're not in a classroom. If it's a fully online class to meet each other, the first thing they do is introduce themselves in the discussion. And I usually ask them to ask some questions. I also give them 3 points extra, 4 points for their posting, 3 points to have their picture, because what they'll have then is up here, there'll be their picture, as well as every time they make a discussion posting, there'll be a picture of them. I'm not hard and fast on that picture because actually I don't know if it's really them unless I already know them. I've had a student put up actually a picture of a cornfield once because he was in an agronomy program and that's what he wanted. Some students are concerned about having their picture out there on the web. So, but I do want them to post a picture, and 90% of them will post a picture of themselves. You notice here on my picture, there's actually a triangle in there. That is actually a video. That is one of the things I like about Brightspace is they do allow you to embed videos right in Brightspace. So a lot of times when I post an announcement or even sometimes in discussion, I'll just do a quick webcam video, ad lib, talking to them on that. You can't screen capture anything with it, but it's kind of a nice way to personalize it a little bit. And I always do that in the introduction so they can get a chance to see me and I can kind of talk to them a little bit on that. So that's one of the first things when you're doing a fully online class. Now, I think what a lot of us are concerned about, and we were talking about that early on, is what happens this fall. Obviously, hopefully we're back on campus. And as I was mentioning, for those who weren't in here earlier, I fully predict we're not going to make it through a whole semester again. So even for my face-to-face classes, I am prepping that they'll be the last half of the semester. I can go online with it. So anything that has to be done in the classroom, anything that has to be hands-on, even if its timing is not right, I'm going to push toward the beginning of the semester. And anything I think I can get by doing virtually, I'll put to the end of the semester. And then I can go virtual if I have to, but if I don't need to, great. I'll have that as a backup plan. So that is my plans as I put my courses together this summer. By halfway through the semester, I'll be able to have everything virtual. And if I have my campus, great. We'll just continue the way we are. So that's the first part of an online course. Any quick questions here? I think I've got everybody muted by the right way right now, so make sure you unmute yourself if you have questions. Okay, so over on the left-hand side in Brightspace is a table of content. The next segment is going to have my syllabus in it, and I actually have shared my syllabus. Actually, if you use Brightspace or D2L, and I think Canvas, I have actually exported this entire course and put it in our SharePoint website. So if you want to import it, I'm going to let you have it, okay? So again, it's kind of a mature course, and I'll show you some of the ingredients of it. And then you can pick and choose for those of you who are really familiar with how to do it online. Most of you're not going to want to take in a whole course because you get a lot of junk with it too. So then we go into the units. Now, and I'm going to scroll down, and again, it may make you seasick. Start with Unit 1. I'm going to go to the bottom. In that self-tutorial book I showed you, there are actually 28 units. So essentially, I do 2 units a week. That's another thing I kind of like about it. They're really quick, short units. If I did it myself, I would probably organize them a little bit different, but overall, they're organized fairly well. So my first unit is Introduction, Density, and Pore Space. I basically have 4 ingredients when I get a mature online course in every unit. One is a lecture. All my lectures in this class were PowerPoints that I recorded myself doing. So I did a video lecture, and actually some of these were converted from an older type of lecture. These are now in YouTube. So we won't listen too much to that because if I was in the classroom, that's what I'd be doing is I'd have a PowerPoint up front and do a video lecture. I have my video along the side there along with that. There are a couple ways you can do video lectures if you've not done them already. One is you can actually use Zoom. So we're recording Zoom right now. Up in the corner, you will see the video of the person as well as what's being shared on the screen here, and you can take a look at this when it's done and how that works. With that, then most likely you'll have to upload it to YouTube. Again, depending on your internet speed, that may take some time. Zoom does have an upgraded license where it will automatically keep the recordings in the cloud. Our college has not chose to go that route yet. I'm sure it's fairly expensive, is maybe why. So basically when it's done recording, it'll save it to your computer in an MP4 format, and then you just can upload it to YouTube. That's one way. Another one, and the one I use at home, is Snagit. And Snagit is from TechSmith. They don't have a license at the college because they would have to license the entire campus, and they got like 500 computers or something like that, and they'd have to pay for each individual computer. So they don't carry a license at the college, it was my understanding. So they bought me a license at home, actually, because we did have Snagit on campus for a while when they discontinued it. So anybody that's using it will just pay for your license at home. I did provide a link for that in our SharePoint site also, and I'll show you that when we get through that. But I kind of like Snagit. The way I like Snagit better is it does give you a chance to do editing. You can cut out the end or the beginning or something like that when you use Snagit. Zoom, it's a lot tougher to edit. And there are tools out there to edit, yes, but not directly within Zoom. With Snagit, they have a little better tools there. So some options you have there. So video lecture, you'll notice there's a transcript in here. I was fortunate early on to have a student take my course. Let me say fortunate. It was technically blind. Or technically deaf, excuse me. So at that time, our accommodations office hired somebody to basically do a transcript of every one of my video lectures, and I have included those in here. Also, then the PowerPoint I'll create a PDF as, versus give them the whole PowerPoint. You can, however you choose to do it. I like to do it as PDF with 6 pages per handout, so if they print it out, they don't kill the printer. But you can incorporate PowerPoints however you want. So when I do my lectures, that's what they get. I don't do transcripts anymore. If that was going to be a question somebody has, we now have built into our computer is ways of converting things to writing and think other ways. If a student needs that issue, we'll deal with in other ways. Closed captioning, if you go into YouTube now, it automatically closed captions. Be cautious. It's always good to go in there and watch it and correct it. I have had obscenities closed captioned. It was not an obscenity when I said it, but when YouTube interpreted it, they put something a little bit different in there, or inappropriate. Not necessarily obscenities, those don't create out, but it does not necessarily appropriate. But with closed captioning, we don't need transcript anymore. So that's the first ingredient of a unit when I do an online unit. There are study questions in that workbook. So the second part of this unit will be to answer the study questions. Essentially, so while they're in the workbook, they're supposed to write in the book and hand it in. I just basically copied the questions over. And there's software out there you can scan and convert to text if you want. I was fortunate it was a little easier than that when I went back at that time to get it. I had other sources I could use those questions from. So they have to answer the questions and submit those, and I do grade those. That's the most time-consuming part of this course, is grading those study questions, and then commenting what they did wrong with them. I usually give them the correct answers. I actually have set up rubrics that will actually, I grade it. If it's wrong, it actually punches in the correct answer for them. So, first ingredient, a lecture. Second ingredient, some type of assignment. In this case, this course, study questions with the unit, go through that over the lecture and over the workbook. Third ingredient then is a discussion. Every unit has a discussion topic in it. I want them interacting. It's something our college something our college insists on. That we have a discussion ingredient. Just watching the chat there, I got chat question. Typically, how many students I have in a section. I have anywhere, I say my lowest section this last year was 3 students. My highest section this last year was 28, I think. Typically, I run between 10 to 15 students. We try to cap our students at like 24 or 25 in our online classes. The discussions can get pretty lengthy. What I do, and you can read there on the discussion, I just ask them a question related to the topic, obviously, and then they're required to reply to a student. So they get 7 points for their initial posting and then 3 points after they reply. Any points postings more than that, I'll give them 1 point extra credit each. I didn't put a limit on it when I first started doing that, and I got some students getting some A's from just being really very chatty in the discussion area. They're welcome to do more than 3, obviously. I don't cut them off by any means, but they only get 3 points extra credit. I do like that because even if their response is not very in-depth, they're at least they're reading other students. It kind of forces them, and students, the good students obviously take advantage of that. That's where they get the extra credit. I don't give extra credit at the end of the semester. I give extra credit during the semester. They come up at me last week, like all of you here, what can I do for extra credit? Says, this is what you could have done, is what I tell them. So, so students are smart enough to figure that out as they work with that. I don't know if I have my rubric visible here. Yes, I do. So Brightspace and most tools allow you to do rubrics. This is the rubric I use in my discussion to grade them. I like it because I can just click, and it won't be here because I'm in student view, but they can see this ahead of time. I can just click on whichever one of those they've done, and it automatically enters a point in our grade book. And the same thing with the reply. Click, and it all makes. And be perfectly honest, the replies are much harder for the students than the initial postings. They seem to do pretty good with the initial postings, and they have a tough time trying to come up with something unique to say in the reply. Our discussions are set up, and I think most places now allow that they cannot see another student's posting until they've made their own posting. When I first started teaching online, that wasn't an option for students. They were able to see everybody. When I did that, I thought I'd get all kinds of complaints from students, and I actually got compliments from the students. They said, you know, that was nice, and I can't see it at first because I'm afraid I'm going to duplicate somebody else. Now that I can't see it, I know it's my own ideas, and you know it's my own ideas. So I definitely set up discussions that they can't read anybody else's till they post theirs. So if you've thought about that, we want them to see everybody else. No, make them post first. It makes it easier, actually easier on them. And then last ingredient, yeah, go ahead.
I see that you run by points. How many total points are in this course?
It varies by course. I try to make it about 1,000 points in a course. I'm trying to convert in my courses, adding and putting down points and bringing points up. Discussions, better way of maybe putting that, I try to get discussions to be at least 30% of the grade. Okay. One of the things I did when I moved to an online environment is reduce the amount of points that were in quizzes and tests. And the reason for that is quizzes and tests are open book. Okay. So I've increased the amount in the discussions and decreased, because yeah, in the face-to-face, I don't have, well, actually, all my face-to-face classes have discussion postings online. So I don't have a class that's not technically a hybrid or using some type of online agreement. And one of the things in the research and the readings I've read now is for the future, when they're looking at success rates for students, the most successful students are not 100% online and are not 100% face-to-face. The most successful courses they're finding now are students that have part of their stuff online and part of their stuff face-to-face. So that's interesting. And that's where we do our quizzes. Most of us in the ag department are doing this now. Our quizzes, most of those we're doing online, depending on the quiz, and we're doing all of our courses, we have discussions going online. And for those of you who've not used discussions online, it's really interesting. This kid that sits in the back of the room and you don't hear a peep out of him, you think he's kind of dumb, will come online and you would just be amazed what's going on in the brain of that kid and how engaged they are in that class. And that's, again, as I've been in this over 15 years, and some of you have been in teaching a long time, our students are changing. They're much more into the virtual aspect of communication versus the verbal. Not necessarily a good thing, but you will see that be an important ingredient.
I like the points, but better in percent, so I hear you there. One last comment, and I'll get off here. I see that you have a 12-hour limit to complete a quiz. It's interesting to see how long they are. And then second of all, how do you deal with disability services? Because, you know, what I'll do is I'll give them an hour, and therefore they have to actually study the material ahead of time. But with disability service, they have 1.5 times or whatever that has to be tacked onto it. But with 12 hours, if you had disability services involved, it'd be real interesting. So I'll listen to your comments. Thank you.
You bet. Very good question. I forgot to even mention that. That's one of the things I was going to mention. I'm glad you brought that up. Again, that's the do's and don'ts with my experience with online. When I first started, I was putting in, this is, by the way, a 10-question quiz. You're thinking 12 hours for a 10-question quiz? Some of my quizzes are 20 questions. Quizzes are typically 10 to 20 questions. Tests are 50 to 100. So anyway, when I started teaching online, I put the half-hour limit on there or something like that, and then I got into disability services, and I had to reopen it for the student or let the student, and it was just to, and not, I mean, yeah, I understand the need for disability service. I understand the need for those students, and I'm not want to shortchange them by any means, okay? So what I did is went to 12 hours, and I have no issue with disability services. A student will come in with their statement saying this student needs 1.5 times, and I'll tell the student, okay, I understand you need extra time. I've got the quiz set at 12 hours. If you need more than that, let me know, and I'll give you more than that. The student says, you know what, it's 10 questions. No way do I need more than 12 hours, and I never have to extend it. Since I've gone to 12-hour quizzes, I've never had to extend it. Why give them 12 hours? For one thing, students a lot of times, well, you know what, 10-question quiz, 5-question quiz. Geez, I got 20 minutes here between classes. I'll jump in there and get it quick. And all of a sudden, oh, geez, this is a lot harder than what I thought. Well, by giving them 12 hours, they can start it in the morning, come back in the afternoon, go home and finish it in the evening. So they can go in and out of that quiz. And there's a lot of different tools on quizzes you can set it up. You can actually set it up once they answer a question. They can't go back and answer it again, or they have to answer it. So you're worried about, well, they read the whole quiz and they looked it up. And they went back, or they went and asked a friend because on a tough question. Myself, my own personal philosophy, everybody has their own philosophy on tests and lockdown browsers and all that kind of stuff. To me, it's open book, open notes, open friends. If they want to work with a friend on the quiz to work through it, I look at quizzes and tests as a learning experience. I don't look at them as an evaluation tool. It was interesting in the first class I converted with my basic agronomy class when I went to online quizzes and that, because it was still face-to-face and I just went to online quizzes. Students went in the classroom from taking about 5 to 10 minutes for a quiz to 45 minutes average. So why 45 minutes? Because they were looking up the answers. Now, don't tell me they weren't learning something. They were. That taking that time to research and learn the answers to those questions reinforced some things. And to be perfectly honest, you go out in industry, not everybody's got everything memorized. You got a new chemical out with a rate, they're looking it up, okay? They're not trying to give it from memory. So my philosophy is, yeah, let's give them time to look things up. So the next response is, well, then everybody's getting 100% on quizzes. It's rare that I have a student get 100% on a quiz. I don't know why. I would think they would, but it's rare. The quiz questions, and I'll get also, it kind of depends how you write the quiz questions too. I write them to be a little more difficult. And the student says, that's a trick question. Well, yes, it is. Okay, you put knots in there or regular or something, or you put it kind of, you got to think about this. I worded it, then I changed one word from what it says in the textbook. Don't just look for that. You got to read the question. So yeah, that's kind of my philosophy. I give them 2 attempts with the highest score being recorded. They appreciate that too. But again, whatever your philosophy is on that, I find this works for me. On a test like a final exam, they get 24 hours. So that means they could start it today, finish it tomorrow. I had a boyfriend and girlfriend in one of my classes once that took the class, and they would sit in a computer lab because they didn't have internet at home, and she would take the quiz on unit 1 first, then he would take it second. And then on unit 2, he would take it first and she would take it second. I mean, I watched them doing that, and they were worried about us. No, that's fine, okay, because they were sitting there helping. The other thing is, with mine is my quiz banks are always at least 2 to 3 times bigger than the questions. So if there's 5 questions, I have at least 15 in the bank. They're also randomized, so they don't come up the same. So a student is not sitting next to each other in a computer lab and getting exactly the same questions. So those are some of the tricks I use with quizzes. So any other questions on quizzes? Okay. Another thing you'll notice there on the quiz in particular, a discussion that doesn't show up, but does show up on the assignment up there too, is you notice there's a due date and an end date, okay? I have a philosophy with my online classes, and we were talking about this earlier with the students we forced online, but on my full online classes, I give them a 1-week grace period. Actually, the first couple of weeks, I give them a 2-week grace period. You'll notice on those there's 2 weeks in there. Reason is they have struggles, they have problems, their internet goes down, assignments due at 11:30 at night, they log in at 11:05, okay, and then all of a sudden they don't get it done in time. So the due date, which says overdue now, and the end date, basically, if they can still submit it for full credit up until that end date. It will be marked that they submitted it late, and I'll know they did it late, but they still get full credit. Then there's two caveats with that. One is when it gets to that end date, don't email me, don't call me, don't tell me that your computer died on you, don't tell me you got a virus, okay? It was due a week ago, okay? Now it was, says, too bad. You should have had it done by the due date. Never get a complaint from a student. Yeah, I know I should have. Okay. So that's one advantage of doing that. I don't have to deal with that nightmare, and you've all had to deal with that, somebody coming in bawling because they couldn't get it done on time. So that makes my life easier. The other thing is, for the students that get it in by the due date, at the end of the semester, I actually give them a 2-letter grade bump, or 2. In other words, if they're a B plus or a B, I jump them to an A minus if they got everything done on time with nothing late and did discussion postings and everything else. So those students looking for that A, they have everything done on time. And I don't think I've ever had a student get an A without having everything due on time. So that's my philosophy on due dates. Some people use that, some don't. That's worked with me, made my life easier, and most of my students appreciate it. Every once in a while, I'll get a student that says, I really wish you wouldn't have had the extension date on there. I says, why? Because I didn't do it till the end date. Then I got myself in trouble and got behind. I said, well, that's not my problem. There were, yeah, the ones there. So that's how the units are outlined.
Add one more question. I'm sorry to jump in here.
No, I'm glad you are.
Okay, I applaud you on your basically your end date, but how do you do your release date then? So the student gets feedback that got it done on time, and he can see how he did that type of thing.
Okay, so you mean as far as releasing the results of the quiz and what questions they missed?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure what other LMSs have, but Brightspace, I can release the quiz and they can see the questions they got wrong, but they cannot see any answers, and they cannot re-see the questions they got right. So the only thing they can see on the quiz is the questions they got wrong. And they don't get to see the answer of that question. And that's worked for me. There are some cases where I won't let them see the quiz at all. But yeah, you cannot release the quiz with the answers. That is a downside of having that extended date on there. And I do, that is, yeah, every once in a while, I will run into the issue of students say, well, can you tell me what I got wrong? Or can I see what I got wrong? That's a downside of having that grace period in there, yes. One-on-one, I'll work with students on an email. So, well, specifically, what question are you concerned about? And they'll tell me, and then I'll go in. Obviously, we can go in and see how they answered it. And particularly in a new course, by the way, the teacher's wrong quite often on questions too. So I encourage them to question me and tell me, okay, and that's why I like them to see the questions they missed. It says, I said I missed this question, but I'm not sure why. And then I can go in and double check, and every once in a while the key was wrong. In fact, I went 5 years on a quiz once before somebody recognized it was keyed wrong. I don't understand that part.
I've had that several times. I've got a lot of online quizzes. 3rd or 4th year I'm teaching it, some kid will say, hey, this is wrong. I'm like going, no one said anything for 4 years.
Yeah.
My question, can you release on your program after the end date all the correct answers?
I can, but I think I have to do that manually.
Okay.
And see, I don't do that either, because the next year they could print them out. I mean, if I say, well, you can't print it, you lock down browser. Now, anything that's on a screen can be printed. You just do a print screen, okay? So I don't ever release all the answers. I tell my students up front, if you got a question, a specific question, just email me. I will give you the answer and tell you what you did wrong. So.
Okay. I was concerned about that. I do these online quizzes. They get 3 attempts and eventually tells them their answers. But to me, it's like it's study time. It's not really for the points. And I thought, well, after a year or two, my course is going to become a file course and everybody's just going to share it. I've been teaching a soils class for about 4 or 5 years. I've yet to see anybody get the file from somebody else, so they just paste everything. I was surprised. I figured after about a semester or two, I was going to have to start rewriting stuff, because that's how I survived in college. We had file courses.
Yeah, good point. I guess community colleges are different. It's not like a 4-year school. They're in and out of here, and a lot of them are commuting, so they're not sharing things from previous years. So, yeah, you do what works, and yeah, that would be a downside to I don't release the answers in the quiz. Yeah, go ahead. Anybody else? Any other questions? So that's how that unit, and you can see over the topics on the left-hand side how they kind of break things up. And again, I just followed Iowa State's format, so that's kind of nice, particularly if you're doing a new course, if you got a textbook or something to go with. One of the things I did, and my assignments are due Tuesdays and Thursdays in my soils class because I do 2 units a week. And all the assignments are due at the same date, and all the assignments are due at 11:30 p.m. And I say, why don't you say 12 o'clock? Because some people don't know what the difference between 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. is, including me. Okay, so I do 11:30 p.m. I could put 12 a.m., but then some people think that's morning, and it gets them caught. Why 11:30? Because students work on it at night. That's fine. I typically in my courses, and the soils has 2 due dates a week. Typically my courses are all due Thursday night, and they have 1 due date per week for assignments for each unit. And they may have 20 assignments, well, not that many, but they may have 5 to 10 things to do that week. And obviously they shouldn't be doing it all at the last minute, even though some do. Students appreciate that. One of the things is being consistent on those dates. In other words, if it's a Tuesday and Thursday, it's Tuesday, Thursday all semester long. Or if it's Thursday, it's Thursday. It's never different than Thursday. You start changing that day up, that really throws them a loop. Our college recommends Monday as the end date. I disagree with that, but everybody has their own philosophy with that. To me, that way, I don't have classes on campus on Friday. That's my day off campus. I catch all the grades up on Friday. I email all the students that didn't get things done on Friday. They all know by Friday afternoon their grade would be all up to date. And even these end dates, you say, well, if it's due then, when do you put a grade in? If they don't have it in by due date, they get a 0. And it shows up in the grade book. And that's kind of a friendly reminder to them, oh, your grade took a hit, you better get that done. So due dates, assignments. As I go down this course, and particularly if we talk about soils, after about unit 14, now I'm going to give them a Wednesday assignment. Yeah, and that throws them for a loop, but at least they're well into the course by this time and have got it figured out. This is Land Management Lab and Soil Conservation Data, this assignment. This one basically works with the Web Soil Survey. Oh, and I'm not going to be able to see it because it's past end. Let me change here. We're going to go back to instructor view and get out of the course. And things will look a little bit different in this format, but I do have access to see everything. So this is basically, that's not the one I want. Find the one I want again. First one here. Basically, this is using the Web Soil Survey. There are videos, by the way, and there's the thing. I said I did a video lecture with my PowerPoint. YouTube has grown immensely, and you already know that. A lot of my newer courses now, I'm using YouTube videos that are already out there as the lectures. The downside of, the advantage of using my own versus YouTube is if somebody deletes their YouTube video or updates it for a newer one, then the link doesn't work anymore. If it's my own, then I have total control whether or not it's ever removed and updated. The downside of doing videos, by the way, is you tend to get lazy and never update them. So I've got a couple that, yeah, are in need of updating from I've done a while ago. So this one actually had another video in it. Web Soil Survey home page. Usually I put some comments in there. At this point, yeah, Internet Explorer was working better with it, but I should take that out now. It seems to be working with anything else. Some instructions there. Their first assignment, open that up, basically is, a lot of times I'll do a video, screen capture of how to use it. And then I'll also do a PDF of what they need to do and how they go about doing the assignment. So if they want, they can print out a PDF of what's going on. And both those materials are planted in there. And then right here, here's a video on how to proceed. So I did a YouTube video of, okay, how do you do this the first assignment? So they have 2 different ways of doing things. This was just the instruction part. Then the assignment is down here. And they had to go in and collect all this data and then do some questions related to that. So that really is my lab part of soils, okay, is the Web Soil Survey. And they do, actually, they even draw out a subdivision plan using the soil survey and a Parks and Rec plan using the soil survey. So we really go in depth into the Web Soil Survey. One of the questions for those of you who are teaching soils is, well, how do you teach soil texture? You show videos, you show the textural triangle. Are they going to get their hands on it? No. But when you think about it in the big picture, if a student doesn't know how to get their hands in some clay and figure out the difference between clay and silt because their hands were never on it, are they really lost out on that much when learning soils? Maybe you can teach that in another course, and we do. I mean, I have other courses on campus that they can actually learn that. But nowadays, yeah, you need to understand the difference between a heavy and light soil, or a clay and a silt and a sand, and how to manage those. But you really need to get out there. Taking a soil sample, definitely lab is better for taking a soil sample as you're out there. Again, plenty of good YouTube videos out there. That's tough to teach online, but at least they've seen it. And hopefully in another course you get a chance to take them out there. That's a soils course. Any questions?
So Tad, did you say we could access some of the resources via SharePoint?
Okay, so yeah.
You shared the syllabus or the entire course?
What I will show, let me go to SharePoint now. And some of you may or may not be in there. To get into SharePoint, and actually I'm going a lot longer than I thought I would here. I just type in C2A3 into Google, okay? And so, well, I don't know where it's at. Well, you could type in Ag Alliance or something like that. That takes you to our website, Ag Alliance website. Most of this is not highly maintained as it should be, because it should be individual colleges. Most colleges, this is low on their list of priorities. But up at the top is a SharePoint login. So that's the best way to get there if you haven't been there or bookmarked it. So C2A3. If you have an account already, great. You may have to use a different account. I was in here this morning, so it's remembered me being in there, and it's remembered my password. I always say no when I get to this. So this is something, again, that the consortium has set up. I think Northeast Nebraska is the one that put this together. And it's not been well maintained, but it's been set up and put together very well. Within there are discussions, and I'm not going to spend time on that. But over here, if you go to curriculum, and hopefully all of you get in here and do some things and add some things. David's had some in here. I see Sarah's got some stuff in here. You can set up new folders in here. You can upload the current folders. You notice here I've got one that I set up called Online Soils Course. And if I click on that, here's my syllabus from spring of 20. You're welcome to steal any ideas from it. It's in the format of NICC. This zip file here, that is the entire course that I just showed you, zipped up and a DTL format. And I know we're reading up on it. I think Canvas can import it, and I think there are some others that are getting that they can actually import it too. No guarantees on whether or not it's going to import for you. But if you want to download it, it's a fairly large file, and upload it into a make-believe course in your own, you feel free to use that and set it up. There's those textbooks that I used, information on there. Another place, and I didn't go into that course, my fertilizer course, I used stuff from the, well, it used to be IPNI site, website. Here's a link to that site, by the way. That's another thing you can put in SharePoint by you. You can put links in there. If you got a link you want to share related to your topic. The Fertilizer Institute has some pretty good stuff in it if you've never used it for teaching soils. So that link is there. Web Soil File link in it. TechSmith is a link to snag it as we look at it. So that's in SharePoint. Also, that Web Soil Survey Lab, all my stuff that I put together on that is in here. I've not been cleaned up much here, so if you download and look at that and there's some stuff in it you don't like, great, don't use it, okay? But it's there for you to use and play with if you want. I do have this is my Web Soil Survey Lab I use with my basic agronomy students. So those of you have introductory agronomy class, and you're looking for an online lab for the end of the semester, in case we close down, there's one right there for you. And that's going to be one of my online labs that I'll have my basic agronomy students to use as the Web Soil Survey. Feel free to modify and change. They're in Word documents. Some of them are in PDFs. Some are in Word documents, depending on things as they go out. So that's that project there is in there. And that's all under online soils course. And there are
How
other
many
things.
tests do you have?
I have a quiz over all 28 units and one final exam. And what I do with my final exams is I randomly pick questions from all the quizzes. I don't rewrite test questions.
So you don't have any tests. You just have quizzes.
I just have quizzes.
Okay.
Just through the unit. Just keep them running. I've never been one believe in midterm tests if you keep them active. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't put as much weight on tests. Tests and quizzes are 25 to 30% of the grade, maybe. I put more weight on assignments and discussions when it comes to grading. My heaviest final exam may be 15% of the grade, not 25 to 30 as. And they have a tough time with that final exam because when you look at 28 quizzes and 10 to 15 questions per quiz bank, that's a lot of questions to randomly pick through. They do get 2 shots at the final exam again. Maybe 2 or 3 will take it a second time. Nobody takes it a second time.
24 hours you give them on that, you said?
I give them 24 on the final exam.
Okay.
Yep. Again, my biggest concern is they start it and then something comes up and they can't finish it. When you got them locked into and again, they're online students, but when you got them locked into a room for 2 hours, yeah, they got to sit there and finish it. When they're online, they may set aside some time and something comes up. So I give them that option. Again, I don't get perfect scores. I don't think I've ever had a perfect score on any final exam. So, other questions? Good questions. Okay, one other thing I'm going to bring up.
Appreciate all your effort here.
Thank you. One other thing I'm going to bring up here. This was sent to me by Tracy Cruz, who's kind of one that heads up this whole C2A3 thing. This is what she's looking at for September when they do our conference. She wanted me to share this with you guys and see if there were any comments about that. Some of you are involved in the advisory council. Some of you are not. When we have that conference, basically we kind of run a couple different tracks there. So the advisory council part, if you're involved in that, they're looking at doing that right now on that Monday morning. Then a virtual conference where everybody can be involved in there, and then they would do a faculty workshop from 1 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon and look at 45-minute presentations of topics interested in the classroom. They haven't talked about any topics yet. And then the next day would be a board meeting again. Any comments on that I can get back to Tracy on?
She was hoping to get some ideas on topics from this group if possible.
Okay.
Ideas for the topics, the length of the topics, and etc. is what she had said. So if
Okay.
anyone has any ideas, that would be great.
I'm going to stop my sharing so I can see everybody.
Hey, Tad.
Yes.
This is Sarah at Northeast in Nebraska. Is this just a lecture? Do you have a lab tied to this by credit, or is it a separate course, or how is that worked over in Northeast Iowa?
Good question. It's a 3-credit class. 1 credit is lab of the 3 credits. And my lab activity is the web soil survey. And again, what is lab online? I mean, we get into this identity, well, lab means hands-on doing something. Well, to me, it's brains-on working through things. So I have all my classes are a mixture of lecture and lab, and my lab is doing something out there on the internet and virtually. Typically, it's some type of research. And that's what the web soil survey is, a research project, essentially. And they pick their own farm, by the way, in that web soil survey. And I don't make them do the college farm. I make them do their own, which is really beneficial because they really get involved in it that way and they find out some neat things about their own farm. But yeah, that's the lab.
So you're not having them texture soils or anything at home?
No, I'm not. And I know some people do that with soils class. They have them and some people have them do a video of them taking a soil sample. I chose not to do that. Although I'm not going to be critical if anybody does. I think that is a good idea, good activity. I know another way some people handle labs is to require them, for example, let's say soil sampling, then require them to go and help somebody pull a soil sample and have that person sign off that they were there, worked with them for an hour or two. In my sales class, when I taught that online, they were required to ride with a salesman for a half day or a day. In that class, they actually also have to have a lab where they actually sell a product, and they can either come to campus and sell, or they can do it virtually. And when I haven't taught it for a couple of years now, it's been shifted over. Most of them would actually come to campus and do the sales, even if I had a student come all the way from Ames, which is 3 hours away, to be on campus to do the sale versus trying to do it virtually. So yeah, there are other ways of doing labs.
I'm just trying to gather ideas as we move into the next semester.
Yeah. My labs, the way I've told, when I went online, my labs are something they have to research and do online. But I said, I know I've worked with some other online Vesta program. If you're familiar with the Vesta viticulture program, their labs require them to be with an industry person, and they have a certain number of competencies, certain number of activities. They have a prepared list of activities that person has to complete, and their supervisor will sign off they completed it. It's kind of like an internship, but much more directed education to specific things. And I think that works well. Again, depending on who they've connected with. They have to approve, and with the VEST program, they had to approve the person who would be doing the lab activities with you. So.
Little input there. I was forced into doing the online the second half of the course, so I just took all my labs that I normally do, which they would do on their own and fill out worksheets. I literally mailed them copies of the worksheets, and then I performed the lab in front of my phone. And then they had to watch me do each step in order to answer the questions. And I got mixed emotion, but the ones that said they sat down and actually watched it, felt they learned something. The ones that were trying to find a shortcut said it was a waste of time.
Anybody else have any creative ways they've done their labs?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I did a lot of labs here this last 8 weeks where whatever the topic I would normally quote do in lab, like you said, there's tons of stuff out there on YouTube now. I could find a video on already done on just about any lab we've ever covered in class, and I would just go have them. I just put that up to our site. The YouTube video I found, have them go watch it and then answer questions or do some, component after they had to watch the video. They had to do some component with it. Like I said, that seemed to be fairly easy because, like I said, you could almost find a video of just about anything you could imagine anymore.
Yeah, I agree there. We do a lot of stuff with Purdue because they're right across the river, and they've put their soils department has put a lot of hands-on labs or just videos.
Yep.
But I think you got to give them the worksheet so they prove they actually watched it step by step.
Oh yeah, you got to give them something.
They don't have to be tough answers. They just can't make them up and turn them in.
I agree. Or you put a couple answers, like a couple questions on the quiz or something that they had to have watched it to get the answer right. So yeah.
You can make that worksheet. We do it like a self-evaluation in our internship. And basically there's basically, we just put it as a test format, what we do, or quiz format, where they basically have to answer questions. But you could do the same thing. You could do a video of yourself doing the soils, and then basically they go through a quiz and answer that, and it'll self-grade it for you and be a lot easier. The only thing, you depends how much writing you want to do with that, but it could all be done online.
Yeah.
Yeah, the self-grading is one real benefit to online. It takes more work up front, making sure you write the questions well. But when they're self-graded, that takes so much less time later on, because online takes more time to begin with. So if anything you can do to make it easier as far as keeping things graded, that's great. Any other comments on labs? Any suggestions for topics in the fall or even future discussions that we could do virtually if you want to do that?
Yeah, I think that'd be good to, just to share if we've got some ideas whether we could do it in this type of venue or at the fall conference. I think I appreciate your time here today, Tad. It's been very helpful from my perspective. So maybe, even just sharing some topics that we'd like to see, just sharing what we do in other topic areas, whether it's crop science in general, or if we want to get a little bit more specific, integrated pest management, those types of courses. and keep it relatively general and have some idea sharing like we've done today, I think would be great. But yeah, I would love to hear what others have to say as well.
I would think, I mean, as I think about the fall, and we've got an afternoon, and we typically have some type of focus. Previously, we would basically focus, whoever's hosting it would focus on what something good they do at their, showing off their school and some of the things they're doing. I think our focus is fall, and disagree with me if you want to, should be teaching virtually. And the whole afternoon, we want different topic areas within that, but how do we convert courses to online? Because we may very well be forced into that before the end of the year, this coming year. So again, that could be the theme and the focus of that, and then maybe in that we pick different topics. Maybe how do you teach animal science online? How do you teach, depending on what your area is, and we have each school brings, okay, what are we doing? How are we doing a vet tech lab online? I've got a microbiology instructor on campus in science that I've been helping, that she's doing her labs online. And just like some of you were mentioned, she's videotaping it, and then the students have to watch the video and respond. So any other thoughts on topics for fall?
If you haven't done your videos before, I found the best format is just to film your own, set up your own YouTube account. And if you want to make it, I just left mine public. If anybody else wants to look at them, they're great. Problem is somebody will throw other crap into your website. I don't know how you restrict that. So when
we make them all unrestricted so people can't throw stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have one question while I have everybody on. What was if anybody can remember, what was the name of the hotel we stayed at the fall meeting? My college was asking me about looking up some stuff from, and I don't remember the name. I'm at home, obviously, and don't have access to my files. Does anybody know what the hotel was we stayed at last fall?
I don't remember which one I stayed at last week. No, I haven't stayed anywhere for. No, I haven't stayed in any hotels for months.
I didn't know if anybody was from Nebraska was on that would remember where we were.
Oh, that was Nebraska. That's right. That's
probably was
Divots.
I think you were at Divot.
Divot.
The Lodge.
Well, say it again. Everybody was kind of talking at the same time.
Divots, the Lodge.
Got that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking Illinois for some reason. Yep. Okay, so our theme for fall will be basically teaching online or hybrid courses. If there's different topic areas, just go ahead and reply to one of the email threads you've got. We'll get those passed on. Do you want to do another virtual meeting like this summer yet again? Do we schedule? I mean, we did this one in June. Do you want to do July or August, or should we wait till school starts in September?
I kind of like your idea that maybe halfway through the semester, we're going to have another spike and everybody's going to get shut down. If that's the case, we could, when we hear that, we maybe do one of these and time it with that when we know we may be forced off our campuses again.
Okay. Maybe we look at a meeting sometime in August, and then we have our September meeting also. Because in September, we'll be open to everybody just like this, and it'll be a whole afternoon for that one.
That'll probably work as well then.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or for the good of the group? All right. Thanks for you logging in there. Good discussion today. I got some ideas out of this too. I appreciate the comments. So
thank you for putting us on.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Dad.
Adios.